who design, build, and tinker, always for fun, sometimes for fun. Jonathan and Mr. George.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Welcome, Mr. George, and Abstract Essay. Can you please introduce more about yourself, Jonathan?
Yes, of course. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm George Little. I am a designer and an entrepreneur. The best way I like to think about the work that I do is kind of how brands, mostly company brands, like SaaS and tech company brands, sort of touch products and their marketing and all of the creative. I have a consultancy called Brandzac that helps startups and solopreneurs kind of shape their go-to-market and get their website and brand in tip-top shape.
Well said, Mr. George. Here on Abstract Essay, we celebrate you, and of course, we salute you. Thank you for being So today, let's talk about why I do my best design work while walking my dogs. You suggested episode title Why I Do My Best Design for While Walking My Dogs. That's not a humble brag. It's a specific claim. What is about combination of moment, fresh air, and a calming companionship that unlocks a better creative thinking than sitting at a desk?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right at the core of it, right? Like, I think in a lot of the work that we do today, we all get kind of trapped in so many things popping up on our screen that we have to kind of take care of. And I find that my attention span to actually focus on creative work or kind of like any in-depth work just goes totally out of the window as soon as Slack is open or some other thing is kind of happening. So I found that if I spend an hour and a bit in front of my computer, going and walking the dogs just like becomes an immediate refresher, and sort of all the distractions fall away, and then suddenly I find myself focused on this kind of one task that I had at hand. That even though I can't do it in the moment, I'm kind of processing and thinking about it. And there's something about walking a dog that just it seems to help with that.
Well said, Mr. George. You said you could ask about dogs, names, and why. So I
Yeah.
will. What are their names and what breeds are they and what is their thought about running a business that no MBA could?
Yeah. So, three dogs, which is why I have ample time to do some thinking on these projects. The two of them are cattle dogs, and the other one's a Chihuahua. So the two cattle dogs are named Bruce, and the other one's named Yodi. Yodi's a reservation dog, so we think he might actually have some coyote in him. That's his name. And then Chuko is our Chihuahua, and he's named after a really good ramen restaurant in Brooklyn, actually, um, for no good reason other than the name sort of seemed to fit him.
You say you don't take yourself too seriously and hate writing in the third person. In a world
Yeah.
of personal branding gurus, how has not taking yourself seriously become a competitive advantage for you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it's become the kind of the unlock for me, or at least for me in my consulting business. What I mean by taking myself too seriously is, especially in I started my career as an architect, and kind of moved into graphic design and branding, and both of those fields can be kind of highbrow and a bit stuffy, and with a lot of kind of people kind of competing for importance among this sort of small group or small community. And the reality is that when you're actually trying to sell any sort of design, you're selling a service that has needs that other people that are not designers are going to want. And the moment I stop, trying to kind of communicate about how good of a designer I think I am, and rather about how I think I'm pretty good at helping people solve problems, that became much more approachable, right? It wasn't like, oh, either I'm too expensive, or this design doesn't fit or the design my design theory doesn't fit whatever your company or brand is. Instead, it was like, you know what, I use design like I use many other tools to help brands solve problems, and kind of pushing that stuff to the wayside and being like, these are the types of things that I can help you solve. Here's some of the results. And a lot of those results are not like labeled as design. They're like, here's a website that converts well, or Here's an SEO solution, right? Like even though there may have been design pieces in there, fundamentally it's about the outcome.
You're a designer who has embraced AI rather than feared replacement. What is the single biggest misconception creative professionals have about AI that keeps them up at night unnecessarily?
Yeah, I mean, I think there, at least for me, I see AI as like many other tools that I use. I mean, I kind of came into this profession already sort of learning by using tools as opposed to kind of having some sort of big like academic background or theory about it. So for me, it's already kind of this like rolling thing where a new tool comes up, I should figure out how I can use this and sort of what the outputs are. Um, I don't get scared by these things in the sense that I don't think anything is going to necessarily like replace me, but it will likely change my role. Like I was laid off coming up on 3 years ago from a creative director role in house at a tech company, and frankly, it probably was not a bad idea on their part because within the type of work that I was doing, which was like managing designers, writing briefs, offering feedback, trying to kind of put together ideas about what we might do next could easily be done with AI and was being done by AI when I was laid off. So, I kind of looked at it as like I can sort of pout about that. Or I can be like, all right, well, now I have those tools as well. Now I'm enabled to do things that I wasn't previously able to do. Sort of whether that's within my own sphere, like I can design stuff faster, I can roll out more iterations, or sort of outside of my sphere. Meaning like when I started my business, I didn't know how to write a legal contract, but I have AI that can help with that and pressure test it and do all these other things. So I think that it's unwise to assume that nothing's going to happen to your role because of AI. But I think it's equally unwise to assume that any person isn't enabled to simply learn it and change the way that they're approaching their work.
You mentioned slashing AI subscriptions by building your own system on
Yeah.
a tons of used Mac minis. Are you serious? And why would anyone do this instead of just paying $20 a month for
Yeah.
chocolate?
Yeah, yeah. So, yes, that scratches two itches. One is the budget thing, and two is the knowledge, right? Like if I have a small system that I can play with and I can break it out without a big cost, then I'm happy to kind of tinker with that. I've also found that there's a lot of redundancy when you're paying for AI subscriptions, right? Like I pay for my ChatGPT subscription, sure, but then I'm paying for other image generation ones or other tools I'm trying out, and they're just paying for OpenAI's API anyway. So I'm like, all right, if unless I'm literally using the maximum amount of all of these services, they're mostly not worth it. And I wasn't born yesterday. I'm in the SaaS world. I understand how SaaS pricing works. The first year is the cheapest, and then it goes up after that, or they start sort of gating things off or rate limiting and all these things. Um, so that was the first piece. The second is, if any GPT users out there, I'm sure you've noticed that the behavior and the personality of it changes every quarter. As they roll out new models, the actual behavior changes. And so if you're building anything on top of these systems, you have to be really careful because all of a sudden, like the underlying personality will just change. Um, so which is when I started to get into like, well, maybe I don't need the most amount of power in the world, but actually just enough to kind of consistently do the same tool or build tooling over and over again. So yeah, so I've been buying Mac Minis off of eBay, the cheap ones, like old M1s and M2s, like $300 a pop, and they can run small models and kind of do repetitive tasks for me, and cost me nothing other than the initial model, of course, but or the initial computer.
Mr. George, you claim the brand guide is dead. It is
Yeah.
not getting replaced. What killed it and what actually works now for keeping a brand consistent without a 200-page PDF on laundry?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what killed it was getting so long, right? And again, it's sort of that approach to design. If an agency sort of hands down this big brand guide and it's like, this is how you should execute the whole thing, and that's difficult for a designer to use, let alone someone who's just trying to get a webinar put together and they need to get some graphic made or whatever, right? Or make a landing page. So to me, I'm like, the whole point of putting a brand guide together is you're just paying an agency or whoever to do that. You're not going to use it. So instead, I think what works better is to sort of work in the world of templates, work in the world of helping people get things started. So whether that's like a slide deck that they can copy and go from there, as opposed to have to start fresh. And now, in this world, as of like this week and last week, I started rolling out Markdown files of people's brands that I've made. So it includes the colors, the fonts, the sort of approach and the layout, the way I would have something designed based on it, because I know that they're just giving this thing to GPT. So if I can provide that seed that's sort of like, hey, add this to your prompt and whatever you make will come out on brand. That's sort of the new offering, right? It's sort of like the new brand guide is this little text file.
A text file indeed. Well said,
Yeah.
Mr. George. You deal with clients who have vague ideas or not clarity at all. What is your most effective technique for extracting a useful direction for someone who says, "I'll know it when I see it"?
Yeah. So the best thing about my role is that I don't work for any of the companies that I'm working with. And as a result, I often have to kind of learn or sort of approach it from a kind of blank slate perspective. So a lot of times when a founder's explaining their idea to me, it's, somewhat obvious that it's like, hey, you're just dancing around this thing that, we should mention. Um, so that's a lot of times the first part is just kind of like pointing out the obvious to them. But then the second is to always sort of walk through like a methodology with them. So I'm like, tell me about your product or tell me about your service. They go through the whole thing. And you kind of ask more and more questions like, well, how does someone actually use that? Where do I start? Like all the pieces that are tangible for the user are really the thing that you're ultimately going to be marketing anyway. So yeah, you can talk about like how great your products can change the world, et cetera. But really, I want to know like, does this thing connect to my existing systems? Can I actually use this easily? What's the barrier to entry? And usually that's where the messaging and the marketing needs to go.
Mr. George, you're being asked about the most successful pricing strategy for a designer or consulting listening right now who
Yeah.
values themselves. What is the specific pricing shift that changed or everything for you?
Yeah. So for me, it was really trying to push towards ongoing relationships. As a consultant or as a human, I don't want to be sort of being paid to do a one-off thing all the time, especially when those things are increasingly being done by AI, right? So um, for me, it was really trying to move the thinking of my clients and the pricing into a subscription model, where you're having me join or having my consultancy join at a certain number of frequency per month to work on kind of anything that falls in my purview. That was the shift from the I will give you a proposal and a price and this is how long it's going to take and we get started. The problem with that is that you're relying on the client to either love what you've done or like everything right away, and not forget about the project and not take their time on it. And like I'm trying to run a business, right? I need to get paid regularly and keep the lights on. So I didn't want to get into a position, or I was getting into positions where I'm like, hey, we built this whole website, but you guys haven't approved it, so thus I can't really bill you. And that was like a big turnover that I had to make. I was like, you guys can take as long as you want. You're paying for amount of time per month, and if you don't want me to work on this, if you get stuck, I can work on something else. That's no problem. And it keeps me more relevant. It keeps the scope that I'm working on larger. That'd probably be my biggest piece of advice to anyone. That and whatever any designer out there, whatever your hourly rate you're charging is probably too low. Just a good rule of thumb, given that it's 2026 and what's going on.
Mr. George, well, you work from home, build digital products, and tinker for fun. How do you actually separate work from play when the lines are so blurry, or do you not bother?
So some it definitely blurs. I think one of the reasons why I love my job is because I kind of feel like I am always at play in a way. So the kind of tinkering and stuff on the side, like doing the offline, AI stuff, is both scratching an itch and also like, oh, I might be able to use this for my work. But very actively also just like stop working and go either go hiking or go do something else, even just like be with my family, just to make sure that there's a real separation there, and try to like even just even if I'm listening to a podcast or something, listen to something that has nothing to do with my job or nothing to do with work, so that my mind at least is not always focused on the same thing all the time.
Certainly. Someone has a startup ideas and asks you, where do I start? What is the minimum visible next step you tell them to take this week that does not require quitting their job or raising money?
Mm. So the first place you want to start is you want to validate any idea that you have. And that usually is kind of a back and forth between building a little bit and then getting some people to test it or giving you some feedback on it. The thing I would say that is the either that I come across the most or the best piece of advice I can give is to be incredibly specific about whatever you're building. So, meaning build it for someone very specifically, not for like a general large audience. That will make it a lot easier for you to actually get the right feedback you need to build the right pieces. At the end of the day, a lot of founders kind of go into a project where they're like, I'm going to have this platform that does a bunch of things, and then they only actually get like one or two of those built, and those are not really the thing that people want to buy. So you want to make sure that whatever you're making, even if it's unpolished, even if it's like you have to send me the files, I'll do this thing and send it back before it's kind of like log in and pay and do it all yourself, right? You have to kind of pick the pieces that matter. So if it's an MVP, it really should be like the most minimum thing that's going to show the actual value for whatever your target audience is. It's a little bit abstract, but it's trying to hone in as much as you can on like this is the actual issue I'm solving for this specific person. Like you should be able to describe the person, what they look like, where they work, what kind of car they might drive, what kind of phone they have, all these sort of things, to sort of better understand who they are.
Mr. George, you recently moved to Oregon to pursue running a flower farm with your wife. How does
Yeah.
design or technologies prepare to run a farm, and where will you find reason to apply technology first?
Yeah. So that's a goal that we hope to achieve in the coming years. But I think there's loads of opportunity. I mean, one, it's a project that's sort of outside of my wheelhouse, right? There's a lot of things I would have to learn about actually making and running a flower farm. But it also, again, is like another set of challenges as far as new target audience, new things that would be needed. So you can imagine internally, there's probably like lots of operations and repetitive steps that are going to happen between what's happening in the flower garden or in the flower farm versus like keeping track of it. So I'm sure there's loads of play there, especially when it comes to AI. And then there's the marketing of it, right? Like, what are we actually going to be selling as a result? Um, how is that going to be purely online? Is that going to be hybrid? Is there going to be a store? Like, there's a whole bunch of aspects to it. So yeah, it's something that it's like another big thing that I can kind of chip away at, which is to your point, one of those like, is this work or is this play sort of thing.
You hike, camp, kayak, and backpack all over the country. What is about being outdoors that makes you better designer, entrepreneur, and human when you return to the screen?
I mean, nature is just an incredible way of like resetting your brain, and kind of just getting you out of the space you're in, regardless of whether you're looking at a laptop or you sort of do more manual work. If you're in the same environment over and over and over again, your brain just gets stale to that environment. So I find going out and hiking, backpacking, kayaking, really any sort of outdoor activity where you can both kind of work a little hard on your body and then also enjoy being outside. It's just an amazing reset, just purely nature. We'll do it.
Purely nature. So,
Yeah.
Mr. George, to wrap up our discussion for today, a listener
Yeah.
is creative professional who has avoided AI because it feels overwhelming. What's
Mm.
the single AI tool you would tell them to play with this weekend that is low stakes and actually fun?
Oh, that's a good question. That's low stakes and actually fun. So, I mean, I think using any kind of really you can't go wrong with any chatbot. I think it's really about the prompts and how you go about using them. One of the things I notice is that I'll start to treat my I use GPT constantly. I've used it for years, and I'll start to treat it kind of the same. I'll speak to it the same way over and over because I sort of expect the same response. But go online, find a prompt library, try taking one of those prompts and dropping it in, and see the difference and what actually comes out. Because it's quite significant how just changing the way that you sort of address the thing and prompt it will really have a big impact.
Indeed, a good impact. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your work, Mr. George?
Yes, yes, please do. So you can obviously check out my work and what I do at my website, georgelittle.design or georgelittle.ai as of very recently. Or my professional work, my consultancy is brandzapp.xyz. So go check me out there and, follow, do all the things.
Definitely follow people. And Mr. George, before I will let you go, I have one more question. When a listener visits your website at brandzap.xyz
Mhm.
after this episode, what is the one thing you hope they take away about who you are and whether you want to work with you?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you get to the website, you'll notice the brand is a lot of fun. I tried to really kind of not take the whole thing too seriously, and play up the idea that what can be boring B2B websites can actually be kind of a fun pixel art space, kind of outer space world environment that we've kind of painted there. So I think that speaks to the way that we approach the projects, and yeah, that we're human first.
A human first. Oh, wow, Mr. George, again, thank you so much for being part on my podcast. I'm inviting you to please do come over on Entrepreneurship 101 and let's talk about entrepreneurship mindset.
That sounds
Okay,
great. Yeah, thanks for the
so
invite.
yes, Mr. George, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Monica people, see you soon.